Hello, my name is Darcy and this is my channel Fostering Cats. Today I'm going to talk about spot treating and why it won't cure feline ringworm. I come across posts like this one quite frequently. In this post, the person was asking about using a topical cream on ringworm because she was told if she used it for just 1 to 2 weeks, it would go away on her cat. And somebody else actually said, yeah, that's what they use, but recommended using it for 4 weeks. I had a little bit different response. My response was, no, don't do that, no, bad, that's bad, very, very bad. Now, if you spot treat ringworm, I know what you're thinking, but I used it and it worked. How do you know it worked? I'm seriously asking you, how do you know it worked? Because your response is probably, I used it, ringworm went away. Ta-da! I'm afraid that's not enough. Ringworm will go away in healthy cats. Treatment is designed to make it go away faster and reduce the spread. Now, I like to provide you with proof, so allow me to quote Dr. Karen Moriello, who says, in otherwise healthy animals, dermatophytosis usually self-resolves. Treatment is intended to shorten the course of disease and limit contagion. And I know you're sitting there going, but you don't know. I used this and it worked. It's great. It's fabulous. How do you know it didn't work? Well, it comes down to the science. The science of how ringworm progresses in cats and the science of what we know from studies on how spot treatments work on ringworm. And I'm going to break it down for you. So if you're somebody who either currently uses spot treating or has recommended spot treatment, hang in there. I am going to hopefully move you from doubting what I say to believing what I say. But before I can do that, I need to give you a full disclaimer. I'm not a veterinarian. This is not veterinary advice. In this video, we will primarily be discussing Microsporum canis, which accounts for 93 to 98% of all feline ringworm. There are actually 3 different types of ringworm that cats can get. Microsporum canis accounts for most of it and is the most contagious. The purpose of this video is to provide you with facts, studies, and good resources regarding feline ringworm. I provide links to all of the resources I reference at the end of the video and in the description of this video. And finally, please don't trust social media posts or videos without verifying the sources. Above all, trust the experts. And you may be thinking I'm telling you to trust me. I'm not. I want you to trust Dr. Karen Moriello. Who is Dr. Karen Moriello? I'm glad you asked, and I'm sure you're thinking I didn't. Dr. Karen Moriello is a professor of dermatology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Veterinary Medicine since 1986 and a member of the Veterinary Medicine Editorial Advisory Board. She is the author of numerous journal articles and books, a lot of them on ringworm. She's received the Award for Excellence for Outstanding Contributions to Service and Education from the American College of Veterinary Dermatology. And she wrote the chapter, Dermatophytosis in Dogs and Cats, in the Merck Veterinary Manual. Here it is. She actually wrote all of the ringworm chapters in the manual. The other person who I cite a few times is Dr. Cinda Crawford. She is a clinical assistant professor of shelter medicine and director of the Professional Certificate in Shelter Medicine program at the University of Florida. While she is not the expert on ringworm that Moriello is, she has written an excellent resource titled Shelter Animal Physical Health that discusses ringworm in depth. So let's move on to why spot treatments don't work. So issue 1 I have with them, spot treatments have only been proven to kill spores on the surface. They don't eradicate the infection in the follicle that is producing the spores. How do we know this? Well, as Dr. Crawford said, without effective treatment, Microsporum canis will continue to produce spores in the hair follicles and shafts of infected cats. Eventually, the immune response will eliminate the infection, but this can take weeks to months. Now, there's not a lot of studies that have been done on spot treatments on feline ringworm or ringworm in general, but there's a few that I want to discuss. And the first is a 1981 clotrimazole study. And clotrimazole was the substance that was recommended in the post that I showed you. Now, the study was a very small one. It infected 13 dogs with trichophyte and metagrophytes, which is one of the other types of ringworm cats can get, and 9 with Mycosperm canis. The lesions were treated once daily for 28 days and then evaluated by daily scoring of lesion severity and by semi-weekly culturing. Now, the study showed that the response to clotrimazole was significantly better than nothing from day 11 until the end of the study. But there's a lot missing from the study. They don't say that it actually cured ringworm. They don't say how long it's necessary to use to get a cure, like there's no mean cure time. And there's no evidence that clotrimazole actually affected the infection in the follicle. Okay, then there was a 1993 guinea pig study. In this study, 176 guinea pigs were infected with trichophyte and metagrophytes or Mycosperm canis. Part of them were treated with bifonazole topically. Some of them were treated with oral itraconazole. I found that interesting because oral itraconazole is considered one of the best treatments for feline ringworm. Now, in this study, they found that within 24 to 48 hours, changes were noted in the fungi in the hair shafts for the guinea pigs treated with itraconazole. So the oral medication was affecting ringworm within 2 days. However, the topical treatment alone only affected organisms in the stratum corneum, the skin. It did not injure the fungi in the hair sheaths or suppress invasion into the hair shafts. So basically, it's saying it's not doing anything to eradicate the infection. And then the final study I want to talk about at this point is the 2020 study done by Dr. Moriello on topical treatments. Now, this treatment was done on the hares. It was not done on cats. And she tested clotrimazole, terbinafine, miconazole at different percentages, climazole with chlorhexidine, and ketoconazole with chlorhexidine. All products that she tested showed good efficacy against isolated infected spores. 2 products required 3 treatments to disinfect the whole infected hairs. That was miconazole at 0.2% and ketoconazole at 0.15%. All other products were good after 1 treatment. And her conclusion was that they would be effective when used once daily or every other day with twice weekly applications of N-conazole or lime sulfur dip. She did not feel there was any evidence that suggested they would be good as a solitary treatment. Okay, so I know you're thinking, okay, so they're effective against the spores, therefore they should work. That's not what that says. They only kill spores. They may or may not actually affect the infection at the follicle, but there's some other issues with spot treatments that we need to discuss. This is only issue 1. Let's go on to issue 2 now. Issue 2. Spot treatments won't treat lesions until 7 to 21 days after they begin, because you can't treat spots until you see them. How do we know this? Okay, glad you asked. Okay, and this is again a quote from Dr. Moriello. Under optimal conditions, infective spores can adhere to the skin within 6 hours, germinate within 24 hours, and begin shedding within 7 days. Lesion foci are detectable within 7 days. However, pet owners may not notice lesions until 14 to 21 days post-exposure. Okay, again, that's a lot of big words. What is she saying here? We know that within 24 hours, it's already starting to multiply, and lesions, when they begin small and grow larger. That's kind of why when you see ringworm on a human being, how it creates that red circle, because it starts in a small area and then it's grows outward over time. Now, most spots on cats are asymmetrical. They're not round, according to Dr. Moriello. I just want to clarify that. And a lot of times, early lesions, which are very, very small, are found in out-of-the-way locations, like between the toes, under the legs. I've even seen kittens with ringworm on their testicles. It can be anywhere. So you might not see it right away. And if you don't see it, you can't treat it. And I think we can all agree, the sooner you treat ringworm, the faster it will cure. And that leads me into issue 3. Feline ringworm becomes contagious days before you see it, possibly weeks. It'll become contagious between day 5 to day 7 after infection. How do we know this? Well, Dr. Crawford said skin lesions typically appear within 7 to 14 days after infection. The fungus starts producing spores in the hair follicles within the first week of infection. Once spores are produced, the cat is infectious to other cats. Dr. Moriello has also found this. Infected cats have cultured positive as early as 5 days after exposure. That means they're contagious. But lesions won't show up for several days after that. Once you see lesions, your cat has been contagious for days, maybe weeks. And that leads me to talk about the 2008 enilconazole study. And I found this very interesting because enilconazole, which is available in Canada and Europe, but not the United States, so I've never tried it, but it is approved as a solitary treatment. But in this case, they did it as a spot treatment. They clipped the hairs around the lesions and treated the lesions every 3 days for 4 weeks. And they found, in all animals treated only locally with enilconazole, a good therapeutic effect was exhibited. The restoration of the hair coat began as early as the 3rd week of the treatment. It would seem, based on that, if you read just that part, that if you have a good spot treatment, it would work on ringworm infections. But once you read more of the study, you find this very interesting thing. And again, this is a very small study, so 5 dogs and 4 cats. One of the treated cats was cured by the end of the 2nd week of the therapy. But, this is a big but, 1 month after the treatment, dermatophyte infection was present again. Why? Why did that cat become infected again? And there's 2 possibilities. Now, either the cat was cured, had no areas of ringworm after 2 weeks, and then encountered a cat with ringworm and became reinfected, which seems a little unlikely since this cat was part of a study. Or the cat wasn't cured, still had active lesions that were not noticed or not noticeable until 4 weeks later. So if the cat had a new lesion on it and it was in that nice little 4 to 5 day period and they cultured it, it would culture negative even though it was infected with ringworm. And because the cat wasn't treated topically all the way around, that new spot of ringworm wasn't treated. Spot treating is like ringworm whack-a-mole. As soon as you finish treating one spot, a new spot has the potential of appearing. And even if you say, well, I did it, I used it, and it worked once, you were lucky. There's a chance that, you didn't actually cure the whole cat, and that a new area of ringworm is going to begin, it's going to become contagious, and it's going to continue spreading. And now let's talk about issue 4. Shampooing and dipping decreases infectious material on your cat. Spot treating does not. We're talking about the hair. Ringworm is hairborne, H-A-I-R. How do we know this? Well, this is a photomicrograph of infected hair. It's actually Microsporum canis on a fox. I couldn't find a picture of Microsporum canis on a cat, but I think it's similar enough. And what I think is very interesting is you can see the hair, which is the dark line down the middle, and then everything around this edge here are spores, are technically arthrochonidia. Microsporum canis is an ectothrix infection. That means it attaches arthrochonidia to the outer layer of the hair. It also does a few other things to the hair. It attacks the cuticle, or the outer layer of the hair, which makes the hairs fragile. And then it coats the hair with this material that fluoresces under black light or a woods lamp. But because it is breaking down the hair, it makes the hairs fragile. These hairs eventually break off, and that causes the hair loss that you see. It's not hairs falling out, but hairs breaking off. And in hairs that broke off were infected with lots and lots of spores. So the hairs that are off your cat were the most infectious of your cat. So if you wait to treat until you see lots of hair loss, you're waiting until after your cat has produced large amount of spores. As Dr. Moriello has made it clear, it requires exposure of the skin surface to a critical load of infective spores to become infected with ringworm. So while some of these spores may break off the hairs and be found in the environment, it's these hairs loaded with the spores that are crucial to getting off your cat and decontaminating. And that is why Dr. Crawford has stated applying lime sulfur twice weekly decreases shedding of infected material, kills spores, helps prevent new lesions, and decreases environmental contamination. She believes topical therapy with lime sulfur dip is not optional. And that is also why it is so beneficial to having a treatment plan that includes shampooing or rinsing/dipping your cat. When you first do that first lime sulfur dip, you often see a lot of hair come off your cat. In fact, I've always kind of considered that a symptom of ringworm, is that when you do a dip and you get a lot of hair come off, it's more likely to be ringworm. And that's a good thing because, again, ringworm has attacked these hairs. They've made them fragile. Getting rid of them means you're getting rid of the spores. And the lime sulfur dip actually inactivates the arthoconidia, the spores on them. So it kills the spores on those hairs, but then gets those hairs off the cat. And now we'll go into issue 5. People love to use unproven treatments for spot treating. Behold the salad cat people. Just because something is antifungal doesn't mean you should put it on your cat. I don't know why I have to say this to people, but apparently I do. If you look up natural antifungals, you will find a list of things that people like to put on their cats. And it's the salad cat people that baffle me the most. Please don't treat your cat like a salad. Stop using coconut oil, apple cider vinegar, and garlic to treat your cat with ringworm. Put it on your salad, not your cat. There's no evidence that they work. None. There are a lot of things that have been studied and proven that work. You don't need to use these things. And finally, spot treatment offers the path of least resistance, and this is a path that can end up in failure. It sounds way better to use a cream versus dipping with lime sulfur dip, shampooing that has to be left on for 15 minutes, or spending a couple $100 at the veterinarian to get oral medication. But just because it sounds better doesn't mean it is better. And hopefully I have shown you all of the evidence, and there's a lot more evidence I had to cut out of this video because it's already quite long and longer than I wanted it to be. But the reality is, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know what works. In one study, where 58 shelter cats with ringworm were treated with itraconazole and twice weekly lime sulfur dips, the mean time to mycological cure was 18 days, and all cats were cured by day 49. In another study, where 85 shelter cats with ringworm were treated with terbinafine for 21 days and twice weekly lime sulfur dips, the mean time to mycological cure was 23 days. In those studies, cats didn't have rebound ringworm. They didn't become reinfected with ringworm like the cat in the anaconazole study. Safe, proven treatment. I have a whole video on the most effective treatment where I talk more in depth. I'll link to it. Check it out. And finally, I'm going to tell you, spot treatments are okay to use. I'm not telling you you have to change your treatment plan. If you really believe spot treating works for you, fine. Go ahead. You're not hurting your cat. It's okay to not treat ringworm. It is. Cats will cure. As long as they're healthy, the cat will cure. But promoting spot treatment to other people without understanding all of the possibilities of how it can go wrong is bad. And that's what this video is intended to do, is to educate you so you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the risks that come with that. And as I said, here are my references. They are quite lengthy, and as well as all of the studies that I talk about. Again, I encourage you to check them out. My goal here is to educate you so you know more. If you liked this video, if you thought it was helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, commenting. These things help YouTube algorithm get this video to other people. I'm not making money here. I'm not trying to become famous. I'm not selling you anything. I am doing this video simply to help educate people, to help people who have cats with ringworm get the right information so they can get their cat treated and not have such a problem with it.